Welcome to On the Same Page, a second-generation series of experiences with nationally recognized and award-winning authors, artists, and creators, brought to you by KET Education and the KET Young Writers Contest. We're glad you've joined us to learn from and collaborate with industry professionals from across the nation, as well as from right here in the Commonwealth. Grab pencils, some paper, and your creativity, and let's get on the same page with today's guest creator.
I want to officially welcome you. You're in for a treat today. KET Education, we're just so excited to be here with you. And we want to say, before we forget to do so, that we hope that your students will share their stories, their artwork with us in our KET Young Writers Contest, which is going on now through the end of March. And we are thrilled that we have with us today Miss Kentucky, Hannah Elin. She's going to just share her gifts with you today, and I'm pretty sure it's safe to say inspire all of us. So, Hannah, I will turn it over to you.
Well, hello, everyone. Good morning. I am so excited to be here with you all today. We have lots of fun things planned. I'm going to share my screen because I am a big visual teacher. I love to teach with demonstration. So I'm going to share my screen so we can all follow along today. And if you have any questions, you can ask those at the end, but we're going to go ahead and dive right on in and get rocking and rolling. Okay. So I am a big believer in setting the stage. We're going to start with our learning target today, what we're going to go through. So at the end of this, you all will be able to identify literary elements in a story. And identify, if you don't know, means to name or tell. So you'll be able to name those. And those literary elements are different components of a story, or what makes a story. And then you'll be able to apply those literary elements to write your own story at the end. And apply is kind of like being able to make use of. So a look at our agenda. We're going to warm up together. We're going to go over some vocabulary. You all are a bright bunch, I'm sure. So this might be things that you already know, but I want to review it so we can set the foundation for ourselves. We're going to kind of go over the narrative writing structure. Then we're going to read one of my books, Honey the Horse and Kentucky Proud. We're going to identify different literary elements, and then we're going to write your own stories. So if you don't already have a pencil and paper, you certainly can get that now, but I am so excited to get started. Are you all ready? You all ready? Give me a thumbs up, give me a wave, give me something if you're ready. Okay, I think we're ready. All right, so let's get moving and grooving. So what does, let me bring my little videos over here. What does this soup have in common with writing a story? What does this soup have in common? I want to know. What do you all think? You all can drop it in the chat. You all can come off mute. Tell me, what does this soup have in common with writing a story? Whoop. Let me go back real quick. There we go. Anybody know?
Landon. Both are easy to make if you concentrate. Ooh, I like that.
That's good. I like that. That's creative. That's out of the box. Yes, very good. Okay. Sorry, my little clicker is going. All right. Anybody else have anything to share? What does this soup have in common with writing a story? Anybody else? If not, we'll go ahead and get moving.
Emily says, Hannah, Emily says it has many ingredients.
It does. And just like stories have many different components, so does soup. So you all did great on that one. All right, so we're going to warm up with some vocabulary. You all probably know some of this, but I certainly want to set the stage for us. So our setting is where and when the story takes place. Our characters, they are people, animals, or other creatures in the story. The plot is the way the events are in order, all of the actions that take place during the story. Our exposition, that's going to be the beginning of our story. That's kind of a big word just for the beginning. And that's going to talk about the background information on characters and the setting at the beginning of the story. So kind of introducing us to all the people. The conflict is going to be that problem faced by the characters. And the climax, that's when the conflict is resolved or fixed. And then the resolution, that's going to be the end of the story. And it occurs after the climax. So to kind of put this vocabulary into action, we're going to look at this plot. And so what you'll see right here is our narrative writing structure. At the beginning, you have an exposition. That's where the beginning or the characters and the setting, they're introduced. That's what's happening at the beginning of your story. And then you're rising up. This is the part in the story after the beginning where the character is facing a series of conflicts or challenges along the way. The climax, that's going to be the most exciting part of the story where we learn the outcome. And then quickly, our story's wrapping up with the following action, events leading to the end of the story, and a resolution. That's how we wrap up our story. So what we are going to do now is we are going to take a moment and read one of my books and see if we can think about some of these literary components. All right, we'll get rocking and rolling. So let's read. While you listen, I want you all to think about the different literary elements. Honey was a horse that lived in central Kentucky on a farm with her friends where she felt so lucky. Can somebody tell me some of the characters in the story? Some of the characters. Oh, I see some hands. Feel free to come off mute or drop it in the chat. Who are some of our characters?
Erica Wilson said, Jay says horse and sheep.
Good. Horse and sheep. And where is this story taking place? Or in other words, what's the setting?
Carson.
On a farm. What state are we in? That's excellent. Let's add to that. What state are we in? Where's this farm at?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Very good. Awesome. So we're already off. You all. Oh, awesome. She spent her time reading and writing to grow as a horse, and often received letters from those that wanted to learn more. She took pride in her ability to teach and decided to open her services to expand her reach. One day, Honey received her first letter from two little girls who were on quite the endeavor. Dear Honey, what is Kentucky Proud? Is this a feeling or a group that's just really loud? Signed, Maddie and Tay. Honey chuckled to herself, and then she started to write. She wanted to tell Maddie and Tay all about the Kentucky Light, about how farmers across the Commonwealth work day and night to meet the needs of our many bluegrass families. So we see that the plot of our story is developing. We have our characters that are introduced. And now we have this action that's taking place. These girls, they've written this letter and they kind of want to know, what's Kentucky Proud? So we see the story starting to take shape. Honey decided a letter would not accomplish the mission. She decided to take Maddie and Tay on a true Kentucky visit. To see farmers and workers in true fashion, she wanted them to understand all the action. So Honey, with the permission of the Edlin family, loaded up the girls for a field trip of glee. At the first stop, Maddie and Tay learned about how food gets to the table. Starts with a farmer, then it's off to be labeled, sorted, processed, and more. Following this stage, it's off to your store. So we've got little actions that are taking place. Wow, Maddie said. Yippee, Taylor exclaimed. Our farmers, they work hard to make sure we can eat. Honey knew the journey was not over yet. There was more to learn and animals to pet. Maddie says, it's a beautiful thing. Taylor says, it's corn. At stop 2, the girls visited some of the state's best farmland, known as the Bluegrass region, where agriculture is grand. Maddie and Tay learned about the state's main crops, like corn, soybeans, hay. The list doesn't stop. While learning about crops, the girls heard a few chickens. They clucked, they walked. They were on a mission. The cows were in a huddle eating some hay, and the horses were neighing, trying to play. At stop 3, the girls learned about bees in a place called the apiary, where honey is their expertise. Dipping their fingers on a comb, Maddie and Tay felt right at home. They learned more about the art of beekeeping, colonies, and pollination. When it comes to helping making Kentucky's food, bees rise to the occasion. The last stop was a trip to the farmer's market. It was the farmers and community's local red carpet, with baskets of veggies and meat on trays, boxes of goodies, and smiles on display. With the help of Honey, the girls grabbed some treats to make their visit and learning complete. After a long day of learning, Honey came back to the question to see if the girls had learned anything from her lesson. Maddie and Taylor, with their sugar rush from sweets, shouted with joy and jumped to their feet. Kentucky Proud is all about the Bluegrass people, their hard work, and the goods they bring to the table. It's about farmers, traditions, and connection. From crops to animals, a wide selection. It's the feeling of being proud when you've worked very hard and want to sing out loud. Honey said, yes, that is Kentucky Proud, where the people are thankful and the spirit is loud. From the farm to the table, Kentucky shows how they're able to take a seed and meet the need of our beautiful Bluegrass family community. All right, the end. So we'll kind of break that down. Yeah, we can get some class on that. We'll break that down, kind of look at our narrative writing plot structure. And I want to know, what are some of the things that happened at the beginning of the story? What are some of the things that happened at the beginning of the story? Oh, I see some hands. I see some hands. Feel free to hop off mute.
They made Honey the horse and her friends really fun that she likes teaching.
Excellent. I believe I heard that there's characters being introduced, like Honey the horse and her friends. We also
Yeah.
learned. Go ahead.
That is what you heard. And what else? Did you say?
I said, that she likes to teach.
And she loved to teach and to help.
Yeah, you kind of learn a little bit about her and who she is as a character. And then we see how she uses that personality trait all throughout the story as she's teaching Maddie and Tay. We also learn at the beginning about the setting. And that's really important because here in Kentucky, if we're talking about a farm, do we expect to see big skyscrapers? No, that's not relevant to the setting, right? So hay, animals, crops, farmers, that would be appropriate for our setting. So our setting plays a big role in the other things that take place in the story and the different components within that. And the rising action. So what is taking place between the point in which, Maddie and Taylor, they write this story and then they learn this lesson, because really that climax we don't learn about it until the very end, and then our story just immediately ends. So what is happening between those points? Where are they going? What are some of the places and some of the trips that they went to? What are the things that they saw?
Yes, Kinsley.
The farmer's market.
Oh, farmer's market. That's very good. We've got three more places. See if we remember. You all were doing good. Where else did they go?
Zoe. The bee place. Good.
The bee place, which is the apiary. Very good. Where else?
The bluegrass region.
The bluegrass region.
Yes.
Look
Very
at-
good. Excellent. Wow. You all got it. So yeah, Maddie and Taylor, they're writing, they want to know, and then they travel all across the state to those 4 different places. All right, and what is our climax? What does Maddie and Taylor learn? What are they learning about? Oh my goodness, look at all these hands. What are they learning about? Remember, the title of the book said Honey the Horse and Kentucky Proud, right? So they're learning about what Kentucky Proud is. And kind of at this climax point is when they find that out. And our falling action, or our action that follows our climax, that's all about Honey, Madeline, and Taylor. They're celebrating. And then our story ends. So you all did an amazing job at not only listening, but participating. And you also did great at following along that plot structure. So I think you all are ready now to start kind of writing your own story. So we're going to kind of start that process today. So we are going to make sure that you all are ready to rock and roll. So if you've got, does everybody got paper and pencil? Yeah, thumbs up if you do. If not, we can take just a moment. We can play a little music. We can dance just a little bit till we get some paper and pencil. If not, we might be ready to rock and roll. Okay, all righty. So we are going to just do a simple story today together. And this story may take longer to take shape, and we may not get the whole story done today, and that's okay. But we're going to work through the different parts of what it means and how it means to write a story. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start at the beginning of our story. So I like to take my piece of paper, and since we're starting at the beginning, I'm going to put a B on my paper. B. I'm going to put a B on my paper. And I want to come up with characters and a setting that I'm interested in writing about. So maybe I could write about something taking place in school, or I could talk about a story in New York, or I could write a story about a trip on vacation to the beach. Oh, that would be a fun story. So think about a setting that you would like to choose, and think about some characters that you would like to include in that setting. So I want to hear some ideas from you all. What are some ideas that you all have for your setting or where your story is going to take place?
A swamp.
A swamp. Oh, I like that. You might have. I like that. A swamp.
A pool at a hotel.
A school. A hotel. That's fun.
It was just a castle in a country named Norway.
Oh, a castle in Norway.
Castle. Wow, those are excellent. 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 All righty.
Lyndon says aquarium and medieval castle.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. Ooh. Okay. All right. Now, what are some of our characters? What are some of our characters that we can write about?
Charlie the crocodile.
Charlie the crocodile.
Oh, Charlie the crocodile. I like that one. Charlie the crocodile. Ooh. You could write a story about a puppy. Even. Maybe you got a brand new puppy or a kitty cat. All
Hannah
right.
Jacob says a beaver with a wild imagination. And we also have a donkey named Charles.
Oh, a donkey named Charles. Oh, I like all those characters. Wow. You all have got some big imaginations. Well, now that you've got your setting, now that you got some characters, we're going to kind of get moving so that we're good on our time, but we don't have to stop the writing process here. So what I like to do next, and this is a little bit different, everybody does it a little bit different, is I like to think about what the climax is going to be. Sometimes it's easier if we know what the problem is, and then we can think about the events leading up to it much easier. So what is the problem your characters are going to face? Or what do your characters want to learn or know? For me, I thought if I could come up with the problem or what my characters could learn, I could figure out the actions leading up to that. And so for me, when I was writing my book, Honey the Horse and Kentucky Proud, I wanted the girls to not know what it was. And that was kind of the problem. And the way that Honey fixed that is she took them on a field trip all across Kentucky. And that's how they kind of solved that problem. So I like to think about what's going to be the climax, what's going to be the problem, or whatever, or what are our characters going to learn at the end of this. So what are some thoughts that you all have?
Carson says, my characters are trapped in a desert in Nevada and can't get water.
Oh, wow. And so now you'll have to think about events. Maybe how did they get trapped? Or, how are they going to get out? Are they going to work together? Are they going to argue? What is that going to look like?
They almost drowned.
Wow. So that's a big challenge that they're having to overcome. Wow.
Hayden says his character, or her, I'm not sure. My character can't swim because he is injured.
Oh, wow. So having to overcome that challenge of having an injury, are they going to get help? Are they going to find ways to help themselves? And maybe, how did your character get injured? That's a little bit of the backstory that could be important. Wow. I tell you, you all are so creative.
And we got one more here. A rude character won't let Charles the donkey cross the bridge.
That's not very nice. So wow, you got some different characters. Huh. So I want to know, who's the character that's not letting this little donkey cross the bridge? What's that character? Is he like a sassy zebra or something? What is he or her? Oh, I've got a little hand over here.
My animal in the what the problem is, its tail got bit off by an alligator, and it's a 500-pound fish.
It's a fish with toes? They got its toe bit off? Is that what you said about an alligator?
I think, was it tail or toes? I'm not sure.
Tail.
Either way.
Tail. Oh my goodness. Well, it'd be hard to be a fish and not have a tail. That's quite the challenge. Wow. I think you all got this part down. Oh, I think we got somebody else who's going to share.
Sisters are fighting because their parents are letting them go somewhere, but they're both fighting because they don't know where to go, because they all want to go different places.
That's a good story. And you know what? That could be a real story in many ways. So you might think, how would they solve that problem? Are they going to rock, paper, scissors it out? Or are they going to roll dice to see who gets the highest number? How are they going to figure that out? So that'll be something you can think through. Good job. Thanks for sharing. You are awesome. Well, let's get rocking and rolling to our next component, rising action. So remember, we started at the beginning, we went to the climax. Okay. Now the rising action comes between these two. So what are the actions or the events that will take our characters to that climax? So in the example of our sisters, maybe we introduce them. They're in a house, they're hanging out on a Saturday night, and their parents are like, what do y'all want to do? And Sally and Sue, that's what we'll call them. Sally and Sue are like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And Sally's like, I want to go to the skating rink. And Sue's like, I want to go to the movies. And, now we have to figure that out. So these are the little pieces that take us up to that climax. So in the story of Honey the Horse and Kentucky Proud, we have all these events right here on my direction that tells us of the different places. I'm sorry, you may not be able to read this very well, but they go to the food to the table. They learn from a farmer. And then they go see the bluegrass animals. That's an event that happens. And then they go visit an apiary where they learn about bees. And then their last stop is the farmer's market. And then that climax, right, is they learn what Kentucky Proud is, which is kind of the problem in the beginning. So what are those events or series of actions that are going to take place between your beginning and your climax? So that'll be something you all can work through. And I'll give you a moment to kind of process that. Thanks. Screenshot this page if you need to. And then we'll go on to our next component. All right. Our next component comes after the climax. And those are the events or actions that follow the climax. So right after, Madeline and Taylor, they learn about what Kentucky Proud is, and they do all their experiences across Kentucky. They reflect And that's kind of how the story wraps up. They reflect on what Kentucky Proud is and what it means to our state and the kind of people that are part of it, which is really special. And sometimes your falling action could be really quick. Really quick. Sometimes you could drag it out. Sometimes your falling action might include little actions and little things that might lead to the next part of your story if you wrote a part 2. I'm sure you all have read or heard about series of books. So sometimes in our falling action, our authors, our writers will drop little nuggets of information that will help us in our next story. And then our last component, you all have done so awesome today, is the resolution or the end. How will your story end? What will your characters have learned, or what will they have overcome? Will our friend get its tail back? Will our sisters be arguing anymore? Will our donkey have crossed the bridge? I hope so. So how will your story end? How will it be resolved? And in this case, Honey taught Madeline and Taylor what Kentucky Proud was. And that's how the story wraps up. So I know you all will do a fine job at wrapping up those stories because you've done a fine job already at creating them. And we've been together for just a short period of time, and know that your writing can go beyond this time that we've been together. And I hope that you've enjoyed the short time that we've been together, learning from me about my writing process and how I write. And I'm not a perfect writer, by no means. It takes me many drafts sometimes, but I keep trying because I think telling stories is really important. And we can learn a lot of really cool things when we tell stories. Not only when we tell stories we make up, but when we tell our own stories. And that's what's really special. So at this time, I hope you all have done and had so much fun. I'm going to give you a round of applause because I think you've done great being on here and showing up this morning. And I've just enjoyed this session with you. Thank you for letting me teach with you today and be part of your classroom. And if you all have any questions, I'll stop sharing my screen so we can be one big family. And I'll take and answer any questions you might have.
How do you introduce a problem in a story?
Say that again.
How do you introduce a problem in a story?
How do you introduce a problem in a story? That's a great question. Sometimes how the problem is introduced depends on our characters. For example, one of our friends shared that her story is between two sisters, and the introduction of that problem was introduced by their conversation, right? Or if that's how the story, if that's how she decides to write the story. So they're arguing, and as a reader, we can tell that by their arguing of where to go, what to do, that's a problem, right? We can see that as a problem. So, for example, in the beginning of my book with Honey, the Horse, and Kentucky Proud, the problem was introduced by Maddie and Taylor writing that letter. That's kind of how we got started on, like, they want to know what Kentucky Proud is. They don't know what it is. And so that's kind of a way to introduce the problem. Yeah.
And Hannah, we have a question. Rosalie asks, what made you decide to write books?
Well, when I was your age, I really struggled with reading in like second and third grade. I thought it was really hard. And I really didn't like to read because I thought it was that hard. But my grandma, who was like 4 foot tall, curly black hair, big glasses, she told me that if you learn to read, you can transport yourself wherever. And I was like, oh, I like to travel. That's cool. So I wanted to become a good reader. And after I grew that love of reading, that led me to want to write my own books. I thought, wow, you know, something that I had struggled with as a kid, reading these books. And now I'm writing my own. That's pretty cool. So I wanted to write books to show kids that they too can be writers and readers.
And I think this will have to be, unfortunately, our last question, but Sadie wants to know how many books you've written.
I have written 2 books. One of them is called Hank the Horse and A Case of the Missing Eggs. And the second one is called Honey, the Horse, and Kentucky Proud.
Well, listen, I always hate to have to cut us off. I wish we had just so many more minutes or even hours to do this. I want to thank all of you, students and teachers, for joining us. And I have to thank Hannah again for sharing her time and her talent with us. We really appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a great day.
Bye, friends.
Bye.